Good morning, Ms. Acosta. We are a third-year student group of our intermediate English class of Zamorano, and we are researching about benefits and perjudices of consumption of white meat and red meat in the students of Zamorano for a discovery project that we are writing for our English class. We want that for your help and knowledge for answer the following questions that we will have for our project. For beginning this interview, can you first tell us what makes red meat different from white meat?
Okay, so most consumers know that there's a difference between red meat and white meat from commercials that they see on TV. So we have two big meat industries, poultry meat and beef and pork. Beef and pork is usually considered red meat and poultry is considered white meat, even though within a chicken we can find white meat and we can find red meat because we know that the drumsticks of the chicken and the thighs are mainly red meat and then the breasts are mainly white meat. And in the same way, when we look at beef and chicken, we have some cuts that we could even consider as white meat and others as red. But usually the industry is divided between both. Poultry being white and beef and pork being red. The main difference comes from the red color that comes from a protein called myoglobin. The more the muscle is exercised, the more myoglobin it needs, and thus the red color. But other nutritional aspects are that usually white meat has less fat than red meat. This is not always the case. We have proven that there's a lot of different red meat cuts that have less fat than even chicken breasts. So I think it's more of a confusion from a market point of view.
Okay, thank you. So, since we are a child, we used to hear that red meat is bad for our health. But according to the knowledge, can red meat form part of a healthy diet? If your answer is yes, please can you explain us?
Okay, I appreciate your question because when we look at the studies of red meat, we usually look up a lot of things that go on in the United States. And there's a big difference between genetics and handling and feed and years of age of the animal when it goes to the harvest between the U.S. production of beef and Latin America or the tropical production of beef. In the United States, a quality concern is how much fat, intramuscular fat, marbling, the meat has. In our countries, because of genetics, because of climate, because of feed, our animals are usually devoid of intramuscular fat. So we cannot use the nutritional values of the US meat and translate them to Latin American meat because they're different. Ours is leaner, it has less fat, and we usually like to eat it without any outside fat. We usually trim the fat. So red meat, and depending on the source, depending on what type of muscle we're talking about, has been proven to be as good for you as chicken breast. If we consider chicken breast without the skin to be one of the leanest and best meat proteins available to us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The next question, as well as now, Zamorana's students are always exposed to hard way of life due to students and learning by doing. And for reason, it is obviously that we have to consume meat for very essential nutrients. So how much red meat and white meat should one Zamorano student eat?
Okay, so you need a balanced diet that's that's going to include different sources of carbohydrates, and within those carbohydrates, different sources of fiber. You're going to need protein, and you're going to need different micronutrients aside from the fat. So depending on the weight and the height of every individual, you're going to have different needs. Young people that have extraneous exercises like you, that you have learning by doing, and then in the afternoon you go running or bicycling, like I saw you yesterday. You need a good source of protein in your diet. And we know that a meat is a good source of protein. It has essential amino acids that you need, but you shouldn't eat too much of it. So depending on how much energy you need and what are your different requirements, what we usually try to consume and what we recommend for consumption is around 4 ounces or 100 grams of meat 3 times a day. And that would be the amount of your open palm. So if you're bigger, you're going to have a bigger palm, you usually eat a little bit more. And if you're smaller, then your palm's going to be smaller, then you eat a little less. So we usually talk about 4 ounces, 100 grams of raw meat. Then you cook it, it's going to become smaller, and that's what you should be eating. So meat, which is usually the main component in your meal, is not really the center of the plate, because you also need fiber, you also need vitamins in order to have a balanced diet.
Okay, interesting. And the next question. Meat industry have been developing many products in order to give one high value to meat and increase its health function. So what are the main meat processed products that bring benefits to the health of consumers?
Yeah, that's interesting. So lean beef or pork or chicken, lean meat, it's mainly water and protein. So, and those are very valuable. We can add some fat, and it doesn't have to be saturated fat, because most of the fat in all of those meats is mainly unsaturated. So we add some fat to help with our calorie consumption, but we lack other things. We need to make sure that we have enough iron, and the type of iron that's easily digested by the humans, which is the type of iron you find in meat. But we could work with products to make them more nutritional. And we have been doing that with research projects here in agro-industry. We have worked with products that have a higher content of iron, adding variety meat, for example, or a higher content of fiber. Since meat does not contain fiber, we can add an external source of fiber in sausages and other type of processed products. Or we can also be thinking about lowering fat or adding other sources of fat, like oils, like olive oil, coconut oil, that has been known to have a good level of omega-3 type of oils, which is good for your development. And an issue, a nutritional issue, is salt content. We know that sodium is an element that in our modern diet, it's in high levels. So meat is one of the products or food products that you can find, especially processed meat, that you can find high levels of sodium. So we can also work in ways to reduce that sodium in your diet.
Okay.
Acosta, so on your own experience, have you read about any evidence that meat consumption increases the risk for some kind of diseases?
Okay, so you know that the World Health Organization, like 2 years ago, decided to put meat processed products like sausages in a list of products that can produce cancer. So people were completely alarmed by this, because even though there has been studies, especially because of the preservatives that we use in sausages, nobody had included sausages in a list like this. It's important to let consumers understand that there are different types of cancers, and as a human being, we have certain percentage of being prone to have those types of cancers. In the case of colorectal cancer, women have around 4.5% of presenting this type of cancer, just by being alive. Men have a higher risk. It's like 5.2. So what the study said, the World Health Organization study, what it said is that if you consume 50 grams of sausage daily, every day in your life, you're going to increase that percentage of probability from a 4.5 to like a 5.2. So it's like an 18% increase. It has to be variety in your diet. So you need a good source of protein. It doesn't always have to come from meat. It also can come from legumes like lentils, chickpea. Those are good sources of protein. And they're even better if you pair them with a little bit of meat. So when you think of foods like lentil soup, usually it includes sausages in it. You're not going to eat a whole sausage, you're going to eat a few slices of sausage. And that's going to be enough to have your protein requirements. So when we eating is, we like to eat. It makes us happy. And this is a necessity. We have to like to eat, because if we didn't like it, we wouldn't do it, and then we would die. The human race wouldn't be able to sustain. So it's important that we like to eat, but we need to remember that we eat because we need to receive the nutrition in our body. So there's a reason why we eat. And that's why we cannot eat chocolate all day and eat 2,000 calories of chocolate every day. That wouldn't sustain us. So we need to think and study what are our necessities. How much calcium should I be eating, especially for women? How much iron? How much protein? How much fiber? And then, once we know how much we should be eating of different macro and micronutrients, we need to see our diet and see how we're receiving all those nutrients in a variety of foods. So protein should be in every meal. We know that protein is necessary for our muscles, but we also know there's a satiety in protein. When you eat protein, you feel more full, and you're not as hungry as when you eat simple sugars. That usually you crash after a little while, and then you're hungry again, and then you eat again, and it's a cycle that it's causing people to overeat.
So it's very interesting this answer, because people think that the problem is like meat, but the problem is some products that are fried.
Mm-hmm.
So to close this interview, can you explain us how to achieve a diet that is both healthy and sustainable, depending on how much meat, what type of meat, and for different consumers?
Okay, so as I said before, your diet there has to be variety in your diet. So you need a good source of protein. It doesn't always have to come from meat. It also can come from legumes, like lentils, chickpea. Those are good sources of protein. And they're even better if you pair them with a little bit of meat. So when you think of foods like lentil soup, usually it includes sausages in it. You're not going to eat a whole sausage, you're going to eat a few slices of sausage. And that's going to be enough to have your protein requirements. So when we eating is, we like to eat. It makes us happy. And this is a necessity. We have to like to eat, because if we didn't like it, we wouldn't do it, and then we would die. the human race wouldn't be able to sustain. So it's important that we like to eat, but we need to remember that we eat because we need to receive the nutrition in our body. So there's a reason why we eat. And that's why we cannot eat chocolate all day and eat 2,000 calories of chocolate every day. That wouldn't sustain us. So we need to think and study what are our necessities. How much calcium should I be eating, especially for women? How much iron? How much protein? How much fiber? And then once we know how much we should be eating of different macro and micronutrients, we need to see our diet and see how we're receiving all those nutrients in a variety of foods. So protein should be in every meal. We know that protein is necessary for our muscles, but we also know there's a satiety in protein. When you eat protein, you feel more full, and you're not as hungry as when you eat simple sugars. That usually you crash after a little while, and then you're hungry again, and then you eat again, and it's a cycle that it's causing people to overeat. And then if you don't have enough exercise in your day, then you gain weight. It's a simple calculation: energy in, energy out, and if not, you accumulate that energy in form of fat. So you need to really study what you should be eating for your age, for your height, for your weight, for your exercise, and then make sure that you have a good source of protein. It can be lean all the time, but you can also mix it up. And every time you eat, you make sure you have your source of protein. As I told you, it's usually the size of your palm, 100 grams of protein. Lean protein is going to give you 20 grams of protein. 100 grams of meat is going to give you 20 grams of protein. Every meal, by the end of the day, you have 60 grams of protein, and that's what you should be aiming for, the 2,000 calorie diet. So you can incorporate meat. What you cannot do is overeat. Not only meat, but anything else that you shouldn't be overeating. As I said before, moderation is going to self-regulate itself, and you're not going to have to worry about counting calories or sizing or weighing portions. You need to be able to sit down and see your food and see if you're receiving all your nutrients.
Okay, so this is all, and thanks for your comment.
I want to thank you for being interested in this topic. Of course, it's something I enjoy talking about. Thank you.